On February 9, 2025, President Donald Trump announced a sweeping trade policy change imposing a 25% import tariff on all steel and aluminum entering the United States. This decision is expected to impact approximately $30 billion in imports, with Canada and Mexico being the most affected nations due to their significant export volumes of these metals to the U.S. This move is part of Trump's ongoing effort to protect American manufacturing jobs and industries, but it has raised alarms about potential retaliatory measures from the affected countries and the broader implications for international trade relations. Key developments. Impact on trade partners. The tariffs are set to affect major steel and aluminum suppliers, particularly Canada, which accounted for 79% of U.S. aluminum imports in 2024. Ontario Premier Doug Ford criticized Trump's decision, suggesting that the tariffs would create constant chaos and jeopardize both Canadian and U.S. economies. Mexican officials voiced similar concerns, emphasizing the adverse effects on bilateral trade relations. Reciprocal tariffs. Alongside the tariffs on steel and aluminum, Trump indicated plans to announce reciprocal tariffs targeting countries that impose tariffs on U.S. products. This would entail matching the tariff rates imposed by other countries, a strategy Trump believes will establish a fairer trading environment. However, this approach raises concerns about escalating trade tensions and retaliatory responses from trading partners. Market reactions. Financial markets reacted cautiously to the tariff announcement. Gold prices reached new highs, hitting $2,903.08 per ounce as investors sought safe haven assets amidst growing economic uncertainty. The aluminum market also saw an uptick in prices, while shares of South Korean steel and automotive companies experienced significant declines due to their heavy reliance on exports to the U.S. The broader market, however, remained relatively stable, with the S&P 500 and Dow Jones Industrial Average showing modest gains. Historical context. This announcement marks a significant moment in Trump's trade policy following a history of tariffs imposed during his first term. Initially, tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum were enacted, but later lifted for Canada and Mexico during trade negotiations, while remaining in place for the European Union until 2021. The context of these new tariffs is further complicated by retaliatory tariffs from China, which recently targeted a range of American products, adding to the intricacies of the current trade landscape. International reactions. The European Union quickly expressed strong opposition to the tariffs, claiming there is no justification for such measures. French President Emmanuel Macron warned that tariffs could lead to increased costs and inflation in the U.S., highlighting the interconnectedness of global economies. The EU has stated it is prepared to respond to protect its interests, signaling a potential trade conflict on the horizon. Potential fallout. Industry analysts and representatives in the U.S. are concerned about the long-term implications of these tariffs for domestic industries, particularly those reliant on steel and aluminum, such as automotive manufacturers and beverage producers. The added costs associated with tariffs are likely to be passed on to consumers, potentially leading to higher prices for goods that utilize these materials. Timeline of events. 1. Previous tariffs. Trump initially imposed tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum during his first term. These tariffs were lifted for Canada and Mexico but remained for the EU until 2021. 2. Announcement of new tariffs. On February 9, 2025, Trump announced a new wave of tariffs effective immediately, coinciding with the implementation of retaliatory tariffs from China. 3. Global reactions. Following the announcement, global reactions included strong criticism from Canadian and Mexican officials, as well as warnings from European leaders regarding the potential economic fallout. Conclusion. The implementation of a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports represents a significant shift in U.S. trade policy, with far-reaching implications for international relations and domestic industries. As countries prepare to respond to these tariffs, the economic landscape remains uncertain, underscoring the complexities of global trade dynamics. The potential for retaliatory tariffs and escalating trade tensions looms large, prompting concerns among businesses and consumers alike about the future of trade relations and economic stability. In the wake of President Donald Trump's announcement of a 25% import tariff on all steel and aluminum entering the United States, several counterintuitive insights emerge regarding the potential impacts on both domestic and international economies, highlighting the complex dynamics of global trade. 1. Economic protectionism versus domestic industry health. While the primary justification for imposing tariffs is to protect American jobs and industries, particularly in steel and aluminum, the reality may be quite different. Industries that rely heavily on these metals, such as automotive and beverage manufacturing, are likely to face increased production costs. This could lead to higher prices for consumers and potentially reduce demand, which might ironically threaten the very jobs the tariffs are intended to protect. 2. Global supply chains. The interconnectedness of global supply chains means that tariffs can have ripple effects that reach far beyond the targeted industries. For example, companies in the U.S. that import aluminum for beverage can production may find themselves at a competitive disadvantage against foreign producers who can source materials more cheaply. This scenario could lead to a contraction in the domestic market for those products, resulting in job losses in industries not directly related to steel and aluminum manufacturing. 3. Retaliation and trade wars. Trump's announcement has prompted immediate reactions from trade partners like Canada and Mexico, who have warned of potential retaliatory tariffs. The expectation of a trade war might seem like a strategy to negotiate better trade terms, but it often results in a zero-sum game where both sides incur losses, undermining the initial goal of strengthening the domestic economy. The potential for escalating tariffs could lead to a situation where consumers on both sides face higher prices and reduced choices, countering the intended benefits of the tariffs. 4. Market psychology and gold prices. The immediate impact on financial markets has been notable, with gold prices hitting record highs. This suggests that investors are seeking safe haven assets amidst the uncertainty created by the tariffs. On the surface, tariffs aimed at protecting domestic industry might be expected to bolster investor confidence. However, the resulting market volatility indicates that the economic landscape is perceived as riskier, leading to a flight to safety rather than a bullish outlook on domestic industrial growth. 5. Misalignment of political and economic goals. Trump's trade policy exemplifies a broader tension between political objectives and economic realities. The idea that tariffs will lead to a renaissance in U.S. manufacturing overlooks the complexities of modern economies where many firms have outsourced production to reduce costs. The imposition of tariffs may disrupt these established relationships without necessarily leading to a robust return of manufacturing jobs, highlighting the reality that economic policies rooted in protectionism can be at odds with global economic integration. 6. International relations and long-term consequences. The tariffs have the potential to sour U.S. relations with key allies and trading partners, leading to long-term diplomatic repercussions that could extend beyond trade. Countries affected by the tariffs may seek to strengthen ties with other global powers, potentially isolating the U.S. economically. This could reduce the influence of the U.S. in international economic negotiations, counteracting any short-term gains from the tariffs. 7. Consumer behavior and inflation. While tariffs are intended to protect domestic industries, they often lead to higher prices for consumers. The expectation is that companies will pass on the increased costs of imported steel and aluminum to consumers, leading to inflationary pressures. This irony suggests that the very consumers the tariffs aim to protect may find themselves facing higher prices for goods, undermining the overall purchasing power of American households. 8. Trade agreements and future negotiations. The imposition of tariffs may complicate future trade negotiations. Countries affected by the tariffs may become less willing to engage in beneficial trade agreements with the U.S. if they perceive the tariffs as a breach of trust. This could limit the U.S.'s ability to negotiate favorable terms in other trade areas, countering the intended benefits of protecting domestic industries. 9. U.S. military and strategic interests. While the narrative often focuses on economic protectionism, there is an underlying justification related to national security. The argument that the U.S. should maintain its capacity to produce steel for military purposes presents a counterintuitive rationale for tariffs. However, the reality is that the U.S. military often relies on advanced materials that may not be produced domestically, raising questions about the effectiveness of tariffs in achieving true national security objectives. 10. Sector-specific vulnerabilities. The tariffs could inadvertently favor domestic producers of steel and aluminum, leading to higher margins but also creating complacency. This could stifle innovation and efficiency within these sectors, as companies may not feel the pressure to improve their operations if they are shielded from foreign competition. Over time, this could result in a less competitive domestic industry that struggles to adapt to changing global market conditions. In conclusion, while the immediate narrative surrounding Trump's tariffs on steel and aluminum centers on protectionism and job preservation, the broader implications reveal a complex interplay of economic forces that could undermine those very goals. The counterintuitive outcomes highlight the challenges inherent in relying on tariffs as a primary tool for economic policy, suggesting that a more nuanced approach that considers global interdependencies might yield better long-term results. The report on President Trump's announcement of a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum imports is laden with significant details that are often overlooked amidst the broader narrative of trade policy and its implications. Here are some critical points that warrant deeper attention and explanation regarding their significance. 1. Reciprocal tariffs and escalation of trade tensions. Trump's mention of reciprocal tariffs is not merely a retaliatory measure. It signals a potential shift in the U.S. trade strategy towards a more confrontational and isolationist approach. This could lead to a tit-for-tat escalation in tariffs that might not only affect the steel and aluminum sectors but could spiral into wider economic conflicts impacting various industries. The significance lies in the risk of a prolonged trade war, which historically has led to increased costs for consumers, market volatility, and a slowdown in economic growth. The principle of "if they charge us, we charge them" simplifies a complex relationship into a combative stance that could alienate allies and disrupt established trade agreements. 2. Impact on supply chains. The report highlights the dominance of Canada and Mexico in U.S. steel and aluminum imports, especially the fact that Canada alone accounts for 79% of U.S. aluminum imports. This heavy reliance on specific trade partners underscores the vulnerability of U.S. manufacturing sectors that depend on these imports. The significant disruption in supply chains could lead to increased production costs for industries such as automotive and beverage manufacturing. The overlooked significance here is the potential long-term damage to domestic industries that rely on stable and predictable access to raw materials, which can lead to job losses and decreased competitiveness in the global market. 3. Market reactions beyond stock prices. While the report notes that gold prices hit record highs and certain stocks fell, it is crucial to understand the broader implications of these market reactions. The rise in gold prices is indicative of investor sentiment shifting towards safe haven assets during times of uncertainty. This behavior suggests a lack of confidence in economic stability, which could lead to reduced investment in growth opportunities. Furthermore, the decline in South Korean steel and automotive stocks is a warning signal about the interconnectedness of global markets and how U.S. policies can have immediate repercussions on foreign economies, potentially leading to retaliatory actions that could further destabilize international trade. 4. International relations and global economic implications. The European Union's strong opposition to the tariffs emphasizes the broader implications of U.S. trade policy on international relations. The report notes that the EU sees no justification for the tariffs and is prepared to respond, which could lead to a breakdown in diplomatic relations and economic alliances. This is significant because it highlights the potential for increased geopolitical tensions, which can have far-reaching consequences beyond trade, affecting issues such as security, climate agreements, and global cooperation on health and technology. 5. Historical context and policy continuity. The report mentions that these tariffs are a continuation of Trump's previous trade policies, which had previously been lifted for Canada and Mexico during trade negotiations. This historical context is overlooked but is critical to understanding the cyclical nature of trade policy under this administration. The potential for abrupt policy changes raises the stakes for businesses that operate under the assumption that trade agreements will remain stable. Companies may need to invest heavily in risk management strategies to navigate this volatile landscape, which could divert resources away from innovation and growth. 6. Domestic industry concerns. The report touches on concerns from U.S. analysts and industry representatives regarding the long-term implications of these tariffs on domestic industries. However, the specific sectors impacted, such as automotive and beverage can manufacturers, are often overlooked in broader discussions about tariffs. The significance here lies in the understanding that tariffs can lead to increased production costs, which are often passed down to consumers, ultimately resulting in higher prices for everyday goods. This can disproportionately affect lower-income households, highlighting the social implications of trade policies that may prioritize protectionism over consumer welfare. 7. The role of public perception. Trump's framing of tariffs as a means to protect American jobs and industries plays into a broader narrative of nationalism and economic sovereignty. However, this perception can obscure the complexities of global trade, where the interconnectedness of economies means that protectionist measures can have unintended consequences. The significance of public perception lies in its potential to influence voter sentiment and policy support, which can lead to further entrenchment of protectionist policies that may not serve the long-term interests of the economy. In summary, while the surface narrative of tariffs and trade policy captures attention, the deeper implications of these decisions reveal complexities that can reshape economic relationships and domestic industries. Understanding these nuances is essential for comprehending the full impact of such significant policy shifts in an increasingly interconnected world. 1. Impact on trade partners. The imposition of a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum is poised to significantly affect key suppliers, primarily Canada and Mexico. Canada's dominance in aluminum imports to the U.S. 79% of total imports makes it particularly vulnerable. The criticism from Canadian officials, especially Ontario's Premier Doug Ford, underscores concerns about the economic repercussions that could arise from these tariffs, which may jeopardize jobs and economic stability in both countries. This point highlights the interconnectedness of North American economies and raises questions about the long-term viability of such protectionist measures. 2. Reciprocal tariffs and escalation of trade tensions. Trump's announcement of reciprocal tariffs, matching tariffs imposed by other countries on American imports, indicates a potential escalation of trade tensions. This strategy, aimed at creating a level playing field, could lead to a tit-for-tat scenario that exacerbates economic relations with other trading partners. While designed to protect American industries, the reciprocal tariff plan could provoke retaliation from affected countries, deepening the conflict and potentially harming U.S. exports and industries reliant on international trade. 3. Market reactions and economic implications. The immediate market reactions, including a rise in gold prices and fluctuations in aluminum markets, reflect investor concerns regarding the broader economic implications of the tariffs. The potential for increased production costs in industries reliant on steel and aluminum, such as automotive and beverage manufacturing, raises alarms about inflation and consumer prices. This point underscores the complex dynamics between trade policy and domestic economic health, as the tariffs may inadvertently lead to higher costs for consumers and businesses alike. 4. International reactions and global trade dynamics. The strong opposition from the European Union and other global leaders, such as French President Emmanuel Macron, highlights the international ramifications of the tariffs. the EU's readiness to respond and protect its interests indicates a broader trend of rising protectionism that could destabilize global trade relations. Macron's warning about the potential for increased costs and inflation in the U.S. serves as a reminder of the interconnected nature of global economies. This point emphasizes the challenges that unilateral trade measures pose to international cooperation and economic stability. In summary, the implementation of tariffs by the U.S. presents a multifaceted challenge that encapsulates issues of international trade relations, economic implications for domestic industries, and the potential for escalating tensions with major trading partners. The complexity of these dynamics warrants in-depth analysis and discussion. Here are three famous historical cases that bear similarities to the recent tariffs on steel and aluminum announced by President Trump. 1. Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act of 1930. This U.S. law raised tariffs on hundreds of imported goods in an attempt to protect American industries during the Great Depression. The act led to retaliatory tariffs from other countries, which caused a steep decline in international trade and exacerbated the economic downturn. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff is often cited as a prime example of how protectionist trade policies can backfire and lead to a global trade war resulting in widespread economic harm. 2. Section 232 Tariffs on Steel and Aluminum 2018, under the Trump administration. Tariffs of 25% on steel and 10% on aluminum were imposed, citing national security concerns. These tariffs were justified under Section 232 of the Trade Expansion Act of 1962. Similar to the recent announcement, this move led to retaliatory tariffs from countries such as Canada and the European Union, impacting various sectors of the U.S. economy and sparking debates over the efficacy and consequences of such protectionist measures. 3. The trade war with China 2018-present. Beginning in 2018, the U.S. initiated a series of tariffs on Chinese goods, leading to a tit-for-tat trade war. China responded with its own tariffs on U.S. products, which disrupted global supply chains and created uncertainty in markets. The ongoing trade conflict has involved various sectors beyond steel and aluminum, illustrating the complexities and potential economic fallout of aggressive trade policies and retaliatory actions by affected countries. These historical examples highlight the potential consequences of implementing tariffs, including retaliation, market volatility, and broader economic implications. The recent announcement of a 25% import tariff on steel and aluminum by President Trump marks a significant shift in U.S. trade policy with far-reaching implications for both domestic industries and international relations. As the global economy braces for the impact of these tariffs, several predictions can be made regarding the future of the steel and aluminum industries and international trade dynamics. 1. Short-term economic disruption. In the immediate aftermath of the tariffs, we can expect a pronounced disruption in supply chains, particularly for U.S. manufacturers that rely heavily on imported steel and aluminum. Industries such as automotive, construction, and packaging may face increased production costs due to the higher prices of raw materials. This could lead to increased prices for consumers and potential job losses within those sectors as companies attempt to absorb or pass on costs. 2. Retaliatory measures. The likelihood of retaliatory tariffs from affected countries, especially Canada and Mexico, is high. These countries have already expressed strong opposition to the tariffs. This could escalate into a trade war, with each side imposing tariffs on a range of products. The retaliatory measures could further complicate trade relations and lead to a significant decrease in U.S. exports, particularly in sectors where these countries are major importers. 3. Market volatility. Financial markets are expected to remain volatile as investors react to the shifting trade landscape. The initial reaction has already shown an increase in gold prices, suggesting a flight to safety amid uncertainty. Continued fluctuations in commodity prices, especially for aluminum and steel, will likely be observed as market participants gauge the long-term impacts of these tariffs on supply and demand dynamics. 4. Increased domestic production. In the longer term, one potential outcome of these tariffs could be an increase in domestic steel and aluminum production. Companies may be incentivized to invest in expanding their manufacturing capabilities within the U.S. to avoid tariff costs. However, this increase in production capacity will take time and may not immediately alleviate the pressures faced by industries relying on cheaper imports. 5. Inflationary pressures. The tariffs may contribute to inflationary pressures within the U.S. economy. Increased costs for steel and aluminum could cascade through various sectors, leading to higher prices for consumer goods. If inflation rises significantly, the Federal Reserve may be compelled to adjust interest rates, impacting borrowing costs and economic growth. 6. Long-term trade realignments. Over the next few years, we may see a realignment of global trade relationships. Countries that are adversely affected by the tariffs may seek to strengthen ties with other trading partners, leading to new trade agreements or alliances. This could shift trade flows and impact global supply chains as nations look to mitigate their exposure to U.S. tariffs. 7. Impact on innovation and competitiveness. The tariffs could hinder innovation within the U.S. manufacturing sector. As companies face higher raw material costs, they may have less capital to invest in research and development. This could affect the competitiveness of U.S. industries, especially in high-tech sectors that rely on advanced materials. 8. Political ramifications. Domestically, the tariffs may have political consequences. Industries negatively impacted by the tariffs may advocate for their repeal or modification, leading to potential divisions within the Republican Party and between the administration and business interests. This could affect upcoming elections and the political landscape in the U.S. 9. Global trade dynamics. As other countries respond to the tariffs, we could see shifts in global trade dynamics, particularly with regions like the European Union and Asia. The EU has already indicated it will respond to protect its interests, and any escalation could lead to a more fragmented global trading system with countries increasingly acting in their national interests. 10. Environmental considerations. The impact of tariffs on environmental policies is another area to watch. Increased domestic production of steel and aluminum may lead to heightened scrutiny of environmental practices, particularly if production processes are less sustainable than those in other countries. This could push industries to adopt greener technologies to maintain competitiveness. Conclusion. The implementation of tariffs on steel and aluminum is set to create a complex web of economic, political, and social consequences. As stakeholders navigate the immediate fallout and plan for the future, the global trade landscape may be irrevocably altered. The next few years will be critical in determining whether these tariffs achieve their intended goals of protecting U.S. industries and jobs, or if they lead to broader economic challenges both domestically and internationally.